Welcome to today's show, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Spencer Walsh. Welcome to today's show. We got a good one for you. Happy 4th of July, everyone. This is our 4th of July show coming to you today on the 5th of July. We're going to take a look at what there is to look forward to. We'll take a look at the young leftist candidates breathing radicalism into stale climate politics. That's going to be a lot of fun. Why Donald Trump reportedly really wanted to invade Venezuela. The DOJ has rescinded discrimination protections, asking companies and schools to be a little bit less racist. Take a look at that as well. Scott Pruitt is almost, maybe, sort of, possibly going to be in trouble soon. And we also have a bunch of other stories for you today, including Illinois Governor. The governor of Illinois refused to tell voters to back a Democrat over an actual Nazi. Mitch McConnell is not really even now trying to pretend that he possibly maybe cares about school shootings. And the ex-New York Times editor, Jill Abramson, is going in on the paper. So we're going to look into all of this stuff today. And finally, we have a little bit of we're going to check out something that, we're going to look at a point of view that I don't necessarily agree with. Probably one of the most high up, sanctimonious, annoying magazines out there, The Federalist. They have a new piece out for the 4th of July. We'll also take a look at that as well. So, all right, we got a very busy show for you today. We're going to get right into it. And, we're going to have a great story out in The Intercept by John Schwartz. He had a very good one out, and so he starts. Well, we're going to break it down. I'm going to comment on it, of course. And so he starts off by saying, today is the 4th of July is a good time to think about the First Amendment. The possibility that journalism, at least in its traditional sense, is produced as it's produced by liberals and progressives is often a barrier to the creation of a better country. There's a better way to do it, and we can thank Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for pointing it out. The left-of-center worldview is people are mostly good and can be trusted to govern themselves. And what they do is largely bad is due to poorly designed institutions and malevolent individuals who take advantage of them. This has the benefit of being true and encouraging. Yes, we can. The positive, that positive attitude, that kind of belief in the common man situation that progressives are known for. They believe that everyone really kind of has a shot. They believe everyone should be treated equally, and that's pretty much the basic progressive worldview there. And I think that's very interesting. But I think the most interesting part about this article is how he ties it up and brings it back into a better certain situation here. So, he says, now imagine that you came to visit Earth from your home planet of. He says Gliese 832c, which is actually a planet that is capable of supporting life, possibly. Gliese 832c. And to finish your master thesis on journalism produced by lefties. Your space brain would instantaneously ingest years' worth of the best American investigative reporting, which is, say, 1,000 lovingly detailed, beautifully designed dissections of human depravity. And you conclude that the conservative worldview is that people are mostly awful. And that was the right one. So, that's like just based on the work of investigative reporting. Just if you really ingest it, and I think this point here is definitely very much true, is that if you ingest all the investigative reporting that America has to offer, you're really going to get the sense that Americans are not good people. And this is the conservative view of the world, is that people are not as good as businesses and institutions need to be privatized, etc. You get the idea. Pretty much that people are bad and businesses, institutions, more or less are good. Pretty much the opposite of the conservative, of the progressive worldview, as you can imagine there. So, as we look here, as we continue to read on this situation, the hearts of self-consciously progressive writers everywhere will cry out against this. And, I mean, you want to look beyond this. I mean, as a progressive, as someone who has a little bit, just, not even a progressive, but someone who just possibly has a little bit of hope left for the world, you kind of want to cry out and say, come on. I mean, we are better than this. We are a good society in general. And really, but any honest look, he goes on to say, at the U.S. Today, suggests that there are limits to this life as a mission. As a life mission. Reporters have ripped the lid off Donald Trump so many times that it's incredible America has any lids left. Never before has there been as much information available about the corrupt idiocy of the corrupt idiots at the highest levels of U.S. society and government. But nothing much seems to change. So it may be time to consider whether this type of journalism is, when pursued by progressives to the exclusion of other approaches, an elaborate form of self-sabotage. And I mean, I think that's very interesting, because there has been so many reports done, but I mean, if you had to give a percentage of great exposés done on political people that actually lead to real change, like you're gonna not get a very high percentage, right? I mean, that could just be the way America works. I mean, you're going to need to rely on elections before anyone gets pointed out. There's, for every Roy Moore child molestation story that leads to him getting knocked out of office or losing his election, you'll get 5 more stories about corrupt business leaders or people like Scott Pruitt, who are hopelessly, ridiculously, and awfully corrupt that just have nothing done against them. It's really one of the worst stuff. So yeah. So, and I think that's a very interesting situation here. Goes on today, John Schwartz goes on to say, I suspect this is why Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has captured so many people's imaginations. It's simply not her personal story, energy, or preternatural Twitter skills. It's that she and hundreds of other Americans with no special money or connections got together and decided that the progressive worldview remains alive. And that maybe we were right after all. William Greta, the national affairs correspondent at The Nation, wrote about the significance of this kind of assertion in his book, Who Will Tell the People? Saying, quote, my encounters as a reporter with ordinary citizens have led to optimism about the potential for democratic renewal. Unexpected music can resonate from politics when people are pursuing questions larger than self. I have seen that ennobling effect in people many, many times, expressed by those who found themselves engaged in genuine acts of democratic expression, who claimed their right to help the larger destiny of their community and their nation. Power can accumulate in mysterious ways if citizens believe they possess this right. Yeah, so, I mean, you got to consider here what's necessary for progressive to proceed. He says, John Schwartz says, it's great for the conservative worldview if all Americans ever hear is that people in general are dreadful and politicians are particularly tricksy vampires. But for the progressive worldview to have a fighting chance, we need to broadcast the exact opposite. The public life is full of individuals who are trustworthy and honorable, but they're not, though. That's the problem you have to deal with. And the public life is full of individuals who are trustworthy and honorable, and even many of the vampires would be redeemable in a world with better incentives. So, I mean, I think that's a good point. And when he's talking about the individuals in public life, I mean, he's not talking really about the politicians, I think. He's talking about the people. I mean, there's a ton. There's 25% of this country who would very realistically, in my opinion, and this is why this article is maybe a little bit too optimistic, but there is 25% of this country who would pretty much support anything up to murdering illegal immigrant children. That's where we are right now as a country. That's how polarized we got, and that's how sick some of these people really are in the country here. But there is that situation. I mean, there is the possibility we could possibly maybe just get out and broadcast that politics isn't necessarily an open tour. The idea of common good seems like an illusionary sham until the moment enough of us believe in it simultaneously. I think we should play some inspiring music behind this. I suspect, yeah, this is probably why it's coming. This is probably why it's coming on here. So, so possibly there's a lesson here for journalism. He continues, readers were thrilled to learn from progressive outlets, including The Intercept, about Ocasio-Cortez's campaign. Yes, the president of the United States is a dumber, oranger version and stupider version of, let's put it same as number, but pretty much a dumber version of Richard Nixon, and most members of Congress are Uriah Heep with too much Uriah Heep, like way more Uriah Heep than Uriah Heep. But there are thousands of elected officials across America with dozens, if not hundreds, of candidates that deserve the same recognition that Ocasio-Cortez is now receiving. So, I mean, there should be all these people. We need to, when you get your word out there, when you get the money out there, when you get your views and when you get the ideas out there, and as I'm seeing this, I sometimes check my phone now, took the time, that distracted me a little bit. Yeah, so, I mean, we're getting a lot of positive stuff here, but here's some negative stuff. Ed Schultz has unfortunately passed away, of the MSNBC anchor. I do want to play for you a little bit later. Later in the show, we're gonna play for you the TYT. The TYT tribute from Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. He was someone who worked with him, and we're gonna get his live reaction to the news of his passing at Schultz's in a few moments. So you're gonna want to stick around here on the show for that. But now we go back to our positive messages. And Schultz, unfortunately, has just passed away now. But, yeah, so the President of the United States is that, and Congress are that. But we can get this. We need to see we need to focus maybe more on the positive this 4th of July. There is Theranos, but there's also Aerial Farm. It's a company that grows greens in a vertical farm in a former steel warehouse in Newark, New Jersey. They're rapacious corporations whose DNA requires them to destroy the biosphere, but there are also attempts across the country to invent new forms of organized commerce with different incentives. There are hideous ideas gaining ground, but there are also little-known, wonderful ones. If we can avoid destroying ourselves, there are rational reasons to believe that our future is bright and we can actually get somewhere. But the goal for journalists, the goal for people who want to see our future get better, is to find these ideas and expose them and bring them to light. Instead of talking about all the negatives, maybe expose the positives more. That's what 4th of July resolution for journalists here at this point. So, all right. Yeah, we move on now to young leftist candidates that are bringing new money back, bringing new attention back into stale climate politics. And I think it's going to be very interesting to watch. We're going to get that story there for you in a moment. But first, we have this for you on the passing of Ed Schultz from Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks.
Sad news, but my brother and fellow progressive talk show host Ed Schultz has passed away. He was 65. He passed away in his home, natural causes. We worked at MSNBC together, and we fought alongside each other in a lot of different ways. What I'll know him for, and I think people should know him for, is that he fought for the average guy. He fought for the American worker. He fought in his own way. And look, all of us do a lot of positive things, I hope, in our careers, and we all get a lot of criticisms. Nonstop. So, at the end of the day, did you live a good life? And can you hold up your head up high and say you did the best you could? And I think Ed did. I think Ed fought, and he fought for you guys, and he fought for the American worker the best he could. And to me, that's a life well lived. So there'll be a lot said about him. I just wanted you guys to know, knowing him personally, he gave it everything he had. And there's not a lot of places for someone who is progressive, who fights for the average American, to go in the media business. We had to set up our whole network. We had to set up a whole company on our own to do it. There's just not a lot of outlets if you're not going to, do the standard corporate message. And he found him on radio, he found him on TV, and come hell or high water, he fought.